Hi guys, so today I want to do the second video in what I hope to be a 4-part series. So the first video was the infertility one, so if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch that one first. This one is going to be about my pregnancy. The third is going to be Lux's birth story, and then the fourth is going to be about breastfeeding. First, I just want to say, I know I look crazy. I've been sanding. I have paint in my hair. Just ignore it. You'll see all that stuff in another video, hopefully. But yeah, I just want to go through my pregnancy. And my plan was to get these videos out around Mother's Day. But Mother's Day is tomorrow, and I'm only on the second video. So I don't think that's going to happen, but hopefully I'll at least get this one out. As you know by the infertility video, I found out I was pregnant on June 15th of 2016. The story of me telling my husband, he is still, I think, upset about how I told him that we were pregnant. So basically, we lived in Florida at the time, and you'll have to go watch the infertility video. I'm not going to go through all of the Clomid stuff again, but I knew the day that we would have fertilized, and so I knew the exact day, because you had to wait 14 days. I knew the exact day that I would be able to take a pregnancy test. So we just happened to have family in town around that time, and we went out to Destin to have dinner. So it was a weekday. I had gotten up early that morning, worked all day, and then went straight from work to Destin and met family for dinner. So we had dinner, and then it was getting pretty late, and I had to work the next day as well. And I had been feeling, tired, and more tired than usual. I'm always tired, but I basically was like, after dinner, I'm just going to head back home because it was a little bit of a drive. We didn't live super close to Destin, so it was going to be a little bit of a drive, and then, I wanted to get stuff done around the house and get to bed at a decent hour so I wouldn't be tired at work the next day. So my husband stayed out with the family. They all went out, enjoyed the nightlife of Destin afterwards, and I went home. So got home. I don't remember what I did, but I know that was like the 14-day mark that day, and I was just too excited. And I had been telling him for probably about a week before this that I was positive that I was pregnant. I could just tell. I just had this really weird heaviness in my lower abdomen area that I had never felt before. Plus, I had taken the Clomid, so I knew there was an egg, and 3. But yeah, I was just sure. And he had just been yeah, okay, brushing me off. So I get home, and you're supposed to take pregnancy tests first thing in the morning, because that's when I guess the chemical that it tests for is the most, or the hormone that it tests for is the most potent. But I couldn't wait. So instead, I just did the pregnancy test late at night. And then it was positive. And I'll put the picture up. And it was just me and our dogs and our cat at home, and I jumped up and started screaming and jumping up and down, and I was just going crazy. And then I took 2 more tests, I think, and they all said pregnant. So I was like freaking out, and I was like walking through the house because I didn't know what to do because I didn't want to call him and be like, guess what? We're going to have a baby. Because I wanted to tell him in person. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Because he's out, like, they're out, like, at a bar or whatever. I ended up, like, trying to go to bed, but I couldn't because I was too excited. So I stayed up, like, laying in bed, and then he got home at, like, 2 a.m. And I had to get up for work at, like, 5 or 6, maybe. But he comes home, and he comes in the bedroom and, lays down to go to bed. And I like said hi or whatever. And he was like, why in the world are you still awake? Like, what is going on? And I like turned on the light and I was like, we're going to have a baby. And he was like, why are you telling me this right now? I'm literally drunk. It's 2 a.m. Like, he was so mad that I didn't wait and tell him in the morning, but I couldn't. And I was freaking out. So yeah, that was the story of how he found out. It wasn't cute or anything, but it's funny to think about now. So then the next day, I went to work, was probably super tired, and I told my coworkers. They were all really excited because they knew everything that had been going on. I was really nervous in the first trimester that I would miscarry because I really, like, I wasn't able to get pregnant naturally, and that kind of scared me. Like, what if my body's not ready to carry a baby? So we didn't announce, like, to the public during the first trimester, which is the first 12 weeks. So I was exactly 4 weeks pregnant the day I found out, which is super early to find out. It's like the earliest you can find out. But so it felt like I was pregnant forever, and it felt like the first trimester lasted forever. But I started getting morning sickness, I think around 6 weeks, and it lasted into like the beginning of the second trimester. But yeah, morning sickness, like, it sucked, but it really wasn't that bad. Like, I had a routine literally around my morning sickness. I would get up, get dressed, not eat anything, like, when I first woke up, because I knew I was just going to throw it back up. So I would get everything ready for work. I would go out, start my car, and then I would run back in, throw up, and then grab all my stuff and go to work. And then when I got to work, I would run in, put all my stuff away, and then go throw up again at work. And then I always brought my toothbrush and stuff, and I would just brush my teeth at work because I knew I was going to throw up again when I got there. And then I would eat my breakfast and stuff while I was at work. With my job, there was a lot of stuff that I couldn't do while pregnant because there's a lot of chemicals that we work with. So I just kind of had to do like boring stuff, and I had a lot of extra time. I did like some courses online. I did like a leadership class during that time. And yeah, so I had time to eat a little bit in the mornings. Around 6 weeks, it just happened to be Memorial Day weekend coming up, and I got a 4-day weekend. So we decided we would drive up to Kentucky, where all my family is and his family. Some in Kentucky, some in Ohio. So we drove up without telling anyone. We drove up during the night. So I went to work on like Friday. And then right after work, we just left. And so we drove through the night because it's about a 10-hour drive. And then the next morning, we got to my parents' house. And we pull in, and my mom was like, what the heck are you all doing here? Like, because we didn't tell anybody we were coming. So I was like, well, we got a long weekend, so we just thought we'd come up and surprise everyone and hang out. Weather's nice, grill and stuff. And she was like, oh, well, just so you know, I have an appointment in a couple hours because Tanga, who is our family dog, who we got when I was pretty young, I want to say like primary or elementary school, and she was like 15 or 16 years old. So she's basically like, we have an appointment in a couple hours to get Tanga put down. And I was like, oh. Which wasn't a huge surprise because, like I said, she was super old. I knew that she was starting to have problems with like her vision, her joints. She wasn't eating a lot, stuff like that. So it was definitely her time to go. And I'm really thankful that we just kind of spur of the moment decided to drive up there because I did get to like see her and spend those last couple hours with her and, kiss her goodbye and all that stuff. And I'll put a picture of her up here for you guys. She was my girl and I miss her every day. And I really wish that Lux got to meet her. She was the sweetest. But, again, I'm really thankful I got to come and say goodbye to her. But then it also kind of worked out because, like, everyone was pretty bummed about that. So I got to kind of cheer them up by being like, hey, surprise, we're having a baby. So my parents were, like, sitting out on the porch, and we had this picture frame that had this cute little like printout, and it said 6 weeks, baby is the size of a lentil. And so I had it and I like came out on the porch and I was like, oh, I have something for you guys. It was just my mom and my dad. And so I like handed the picture frame to my mom and she looked at it. She read it aloud and she was like, what the heck is a lentil? And my dad was like, I don't think that's the point. And my mom was like, are you pregnant? And I was like, yes. But it took her so long to like understand because she didn't know what a lentil was. And then, yeah, she like jumped up and they hugged me and they like got all teary-eyed. For those of you who don't know, my daughter is my parents' only grandchild at the moment. At the time that this was filmed, neither of my two brothers have children. Robert's sister has 2 kids, so Lex is the 3rd grandchild on his side. Everyone was still excited. Like that, I'm just giving you guys context. And then, yeah, while we were there in Kentucky, we went to see his mom and we like came up the steps and I think she was on the phone or something and she was like, I have to go. My son just walked in. Because again, no one knew we were coming. So we told her. So everyone was really excited. We went up to Cincinnati, told his grandparents. And yeah, we just had a really good. We also told like my grandparents who live like next door to my parents and some family who just happened to be around during that time. So we did tell a lot of our family around 6 weeks, but we didn't post it on Facebook until 12 weeks. And then also around the 12-week mark, I did have a little bit of spotting and I was super nervous about it. And my flight chief was like, just go over to the ER. I worked at the dental clinic, which was literally right across the street from the hospital on base. And so I just walked over to the ER. They took me back immediately. They did an ultrasound. Everything looked normal. From what I hear, spotting is not super uncommon during pregnancy, but I just wanted to get it checked out in case, and everything was good. Nothing went wrong. So I guess I'll go into kind of the prenatal appointments and stuff. So I was seeing a midwife because I planned to have a home birth. And I know some of you are going to be like, you're a natural psychopath, which is fine. But the problem that I ran into was that I'm active duty military. And the base that I was stationed at had a labor and delivery unit. So I should have delivered on base the labor and delivery unit. It's a really gray area from what I understand. Along the way, like when people would get involved and I would tell them like, no, I'm having home birth, they like wouldn't know what to do. So that's kind of how I got away with it. I did unfortunately have to pay for it completely out of pocket because my insurance is through the military and I was choosing to have a home birth instead of birthing on base. If I had birthed on base, it would have been all completely free, but I wanted to do the home birth, so I felt justified in paying that. I get asked a lot how much it was. I usually say it was around $8,000 once you factor in everything, because I also had to pay for all of my like labs and ultrasounds out of pocket, the prenatal, the postnatal, the birth, all the supplies for the birth. So yeah, it came out to about that. I also did see a chiropractor like every 2 weeks during the pregnancy, which I 100% recommend. I didn't even know that was a thing, that you could see a chiropractor, but my pelvis apparently was like shifted really far to the right. They were worried about that affecting the birth because obviously I was wanted to do it natural. So yeah, I had to see her every 2 weeks, and luckily she did get everything straightened back up before I went into labor, so that was awesome. And sorry if you see me like scratching a lot, I put sunscreen on my tattoo yesterday and then I forgot to wash it off before I went to bed, so now I have an itchy bumpy rash because I have super sensitive skin. But anyway, so yeah, I was planning to have a home birth, so I started seeing my midwife. She had a birth center pretty close to base, and you could choose to either birth at the center there, which was very nice, or if you live in the local area, she would attend a home birth as well. So I already knew prior to getting pregnant, wanted to have a home birth. It's going to take this video will literally be like 3 hours long if I start talking about why I wanted to have a home birth and all that. Maybe I'll do that for another video, but I had already decided ahead of time that was what I wanted to do. And I was bound and determined. My husband was pretty hesitant about it, as you would imagine, but I was going to do it. I was like, I'm doing it. When I think back on, and it must have been the hormones or something, but a lot of decisions I made while I was pregnant, like I would not have the courage to make now. And I'm like, I really believed in myself because one of the other biggest things was with our insurance, since they weren't paying and they didn't really agree with what was going on. If anything had happened during the birth that required me or the baby to be transferred to a hospital, any hospital bills incurred from that, so the ambulance ride, the hospital stay, any time that she may have needed to be in the NICU, none, not a penny of that would have been covered by our insurance, which now scares the shit out of me. But then I was like, it doesn't matter because I'm going to rock this home birth and nothing's going to happen. It had to be the hormones because I don't know. I don't know if I would have made the same decision now. Anyway. So yeah, my coworkers and my leadership knew what I was planning to do, and even though they thought I was crazy, they supported me because in the end, it was me having my baby, with my body, and I still to this day don't know why it matters. where someone chooses to give birth. But again, I'm not going to go off on a tangent here because I could. But basically, I never went and saw like my military doctor for any prenatal appointments because why would I? She's not delivering my baby. My midwife saw me for all of my prenatal appointments. But the military knew that I was pregnant because I had to tell them. Like, I had to go to the lab on base and take a pregnancy test so that I would have a profile saying that I was exempt from taking PT tests. So those are like physical tests where you have to run and do sit-ups and push-ups. So obviously you don't do those while you were pregnant. And then it also puts you on a restriction for like being deployed. So if I had just been like, I'm not going to tell them that I'm pregnant, then I would have had to take a PT test while I was pregnant, which is literally not possible because you also, a component of that is your waist measurement, which I obviously would have failed pregnant and, you know, would have most likely failed the other components as well. And then there was a possibility of me having to deploy, and they won't deploy you while you're pregnant. So there's no way to just hide your pregnancy from the military. So they did know I was pregnant. It was on like file that I was pregnant. So about 20 weeks in, I get a call from the clinic and they're like, so I wasn't being seen in the OBGYN clinic, or I wasn't being seen anywhere, but my like doctor that they had given me for like pregnancy and delivery and stuff was a resident. So she was in the family medicine residency clinic, not the OBGYN clinic. So the residency clinic called me about 20 weeks in. They were like, your file says that you should be like 20 weeks pregnant, and that's about the time when you get like your 20-week anatomy scan to find out, you know, make sure your baby is doing well, and that's when you find out the gender too. But, you know, they were like, we haven't seen you, like, are you still pregnant? Which I bet is a really awkward question to have to ask someone on the phone, because like, what if they said no? Anyway, I was like, yeah, and this was not the doctor. This was just like a tech who worked at the front desk or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm still pregnant, but I'm like seeing a provider off base. And he was like, oh, are you allowed to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. And he was like, oh, well, okay, have a good day. And so I was like, okay, dodge that bullet. So then that was 20 weeks. Never heard from her again until I was 36 weeks pregnant. For those of you who know nothing about pregnancy, 40 weeks is like how long you're supposed to be pregnant. So your due date is on like your 40 weeks of being pregnant. So it's 4 weeks away from my due date when the actual doctor calls me. I'm at work. I take the call and she's like, you know, your record says you should be like 36 weeks pregnant. Never seen you. Like, you're still on your pregnancy profile. Like, what the heck is going on? So I explained to her, like, I've been seeing a midwife my entire pregnancy. And yeah, I'm having a home birth. And she did not like that, let me tell you. Which, again, I don't know why people get, like, so mad about the way someone chooses to have their own baby, but whatever. And she was like, you can't do that, you're active duty, like, because something that really pisses me off about kind of like the rules in the military is that how it works is that because I'm active duty, I have to be seen at the military hospital for health-related things unless the base that you're at doesn't have a hospital or their hospital has like limited capabilities. but I wasn't. We had a huge hospital that had everything in it. But if my husband were active duty and I was just his dependent, I could have any birth that I wanted to have paid for. Like, why? Why can't I be active duty and give birth however the hell I want? Being active duty doesn't make me any less of a person. I know I belong to the government, but still. Anyway, again, a whole nother tangent that I'm not going to go off on. But she did not like that I was like being so firm and saying like, this is what I'm doing. Get over it. Also, like, I was just an airman then, which is like very low on the rank structure, and she was a captain, which is an officer. So she very much outranked me. And so yes, and also she was a doctor, and I was just a kid who worked at dental. But anyway, so yeah, she's like, I can't remember everything that she said to me in that phone call, but the thing that stuck out the most was, if I don't deliver your baby, then I'm not going to sign off on your maternity leave, which means I would have had to come back to work the day after giving birth. And I was like, all right, we're going to play this game. So I hang up, tell my flight chief and my supervisor, and I'm like, I'm going to go over to the hospital and talk to the patient advocate, who, if you can guess by the title of the name, is supposed to advocate for the patient if they experience neglect or just something bad with their care while they're there at the hospital. So I go over, I go in her office and I explain everything to her, and I explain the phone call, and I'm like, can she do that? This lady pulls up a chair like she cares about me, and is like, I just really want to discourage you from doing this. Like, I worked in labor and delivery for years, and I just think this is a bad idea. You never know what could happen. And I was like, I don't understand. Plus, like, pregnancy hormones, so I was like about to lose it. I was like, I don't understand why all of you people think that I'm just having a baby with no plans. Like, I don't think you understand anything, because you're acting like I just went onto the street and grabbed a random person that I've never met before and was like, you're going to deliver my baby. I don't know. So all she did was give me a lecture. The patient advocate, all she did was give me a lecture. So I left, and I was like, are you kidding me? So then I went to the next resource that I knew, which was my first sergeant. So my first sergeant, I go in, I explain it to him. He was a man, for one, and he didn't have kids. So he didn't really know, but he was super helpful. And he was like, this is crazy. He was like, for one, I'm pretty sure she doesn't even have like approval of your leave anyway. Your commander approves your leave. So I don't know where she's getting this from. So he ends up calling the doctor's commander and is like, you need to get her in check. So then she calls me back, maybe like the next day or something. It was like, all right, I'll sign your leave, but you have to, after you have your baby, you have to bring your baby into the clinic, make an appointment, bring your baby into the clinic to prove to me that you had a baby, and then I'll sign off on your leave. And I was just like, she's lucky this was all phone calls, because I might have lost some stripes. But anyway, yeah, that was all the crap that I had to go through on the military side of it. Meanwhile, all my appointments with my midwife were great. My pregnancy was 100% healthy, very low risk. The only problem that I had was that I was anemic. Once they took some blood, I was anemic, so I had to take some iron supplements, but we got it back up in the end, and it was no big deal. But something I really liked that my midwife offered was called centering classes. Basically, I was due in February, so all of the women that were due in February as well, once a month? Yeah, I think once a month. We would come in, have our appointments, like our one-on-one appointments with her, which were generally really short. We didn't do like ultrasounds at every appointment. We didn't do cervical checks. That's all kind of part of wanting to have a more natural, hands-off pregnancy and birth. So, but then we would all see her, and then right after we would go into the big room and we would have like a class. So we had like, obviously, ones about like preparing your home for birth, breastfeeding, about pain relief during labor, because obviously if you're having a home birth, you're not going to have pain medication. And then, yeah, so all kind of stuff like that, like having a healthy pregnancy, all that kind of stuff. I can't remember like each class, but we had one every month, and it was really cool. So I liked that because it was very small. There was maybe like 5 or 6 women in my class, and it was the same like 6 women every time because you're all due in February. And then, yeah, I really liked it. We decided not to find out the gender of our baby while we were pregnant. We found out the day she was born that she was a she. And I'll talk about that in the next video when I go into the birth. But that was probably like my favorite part. And like people were upset about that because people have to have something to be upset about. But yeah, I thought it was so cool. And then also like I love that we didn't end up with like an entire closet of just pink because nobody knew. Nobody knew what she was. So that was really cool. I personally did not like being pregnant. Was super happy and grateful to be pregnant, and my pregnancy was very low risk. There was nothing really wrong with me at all. I just didn't like it. Like, I just didn't feel like myself, and I didn't like that. I gained around 30 pounds, which is pretty average, I think. I'll put in a picture of me on exactly 40 weeks pregnant, which was my due date. So I was due February 23rd, and she was born February 28th. So she had to cook an extra 5 days, which was annoying because on February 23rd, on her due date, when I took this picture, I had 0 stretch marks. She stayed an extra 5 days, and I got stretch marks in those 5 days that she stayed extra. But I don't really care. I only have a couple, and they're like pretty low. And I mean, it is what it is. I had a baby, so it's not like I could just hide that from people. Oh, so something else crazy that happened while I was pregnant. Before I actually got pregnant, we had decided we wanted to buy a house because we were just renting at the time. But we loved the area that we lived in. And even though we knew at some point we were going to have to move away from that area because of the military, that we knew that we wanted to come back to that area and settle down eventually. So we were like, we're going to buy a house here. We'll just rent it out when we have to move away, but we'll always have it to come back to. So we had started looking at houses. We looked to so many houses over like a few months. Then we found out we were pregnant, and that was great. We kept looking. We found a house that we really loved. We put in an offer, and it was accepted. I want to say that was in like September of 2016. So still plenty of time before the baby comes, right? Because she wasn't due till February. So we put in an offer. They accept our offer. We, have the inspection done on the house, which we have to pay for. We did all the stuff. We signed the contracts. We went under contract. We got our loan approved to the bank. Everything was awesome. We got a really good deal on the house. We got a really good interest rate. We were super excited about it. And the day we were supposed to close on the house was in October. We were supposed to close on the house. It was, I believe, a foreclosure. And the title or the deed of the house, the deed of the house had a husband and wife both on the deed. However, there was something up with the title that they had to get fixed before we could close on the house. And they couldn't locate one of the pair because they had divorced. So they were like, we're going to have to push back the closing date because we have to get this fixed before we can close. So we were like, okay, no big deal. So I want to say they had to do that 2 or 3 times. So we're getting pretty anxious at this point. It is now December and our baby's due in February. And our plan, we got a new close date in December and we were like, okay, perfect. So our plan was, our landlord at the house that we rented was great. He understood. We had been telling him as we went, hey, our close date got moved. He was cool. And we were like, all right, this is our new date, for sure. And he was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and put the house online so that I can have, new renters for when you guys move out, which makes complete sense. We were like, yeah, obviously. So we get within a week, I want to say, of our close date. So our plan was we were going to close on the house in it was mid-December. We were going to close on the house that day, move out of our rental the next day. So just move all of our stuff from our rental into the new house because it was right down the road. And then we were going home for Christmas. We were going back to Kentucky, Ohio for Christmas. So, yeah, it was going to be fine. All of our stuff would be in the new house. We were just going to go home for Christmas for a few weeks, come back, get everything ready. And then, it would have been the beginning of January. We still would have had all of January and almost all of February because she was due on the 23rd. A week before we're supposed to close and move out of our rental house, they call, our real estate agent calls. It was like, they could not get the issue with the deed resolved, and they've had to take the house off the market. So it's no longer for sale. So we're like, this is just wonderful. This is great, right? This is the best thing that could happen 2 months before we're going to have a baby. So we call our landlord and we're like, this has happened. And again, he was a great guy. He felt really bad, but he was like, someone is literally moving in the day that you all are supposed to move out. I'm sorry, but I can't. I already have, they've already paid their deposit, whatever. We're like, we understand. We totally understand. So we were like, what are we going to do? Luckily, we had some really amazing friends when we lived in Florida, and we miss you guys so much if you're watching this. All of our friends from Florida. One of our close friends and a guy that I worked with, shout out to Jacob and Tiffany, they actually let us move in with them, and we lived with them. I want to say for a month. Yeah. So basically what we did was we moved, on the day we were supposed to move out of our house, we moved everything we owned into storage. And then we went home for Christmas. We came back on like the 1st of January or the 2nd maybe. And then when we came back, we just lived with Jacob and Tiffany. They also went home for Christmas, but they went home like after us. So like we lived in their house for like 2 weeks alone until they came back. But yeah, it was actually a really good time. Like it sucked obviously not having a place like of our own, but we really enjoyed staying with them. They had a little daughter as well, and she's the best. Shout out to Kinley. And yeah, that was surprisingly ended up being like really nice and really fun, and we got really close with them. But it was also stressful because it was January and our baby was due in February and we were homeless. So we found another rental house, and yeah, because it was too late to buy at this point. Like we didn't have the time. So we found another rental house. We moved into our rental on February 1st. And our baby was due February 23rd, and we were having a home birth. So we had to get everything ready for the home birth on top of just getting our house unpacked and everything. So that was super stressful. Also, like, I was huge. I was tired. I was over it. And like, I'm already just a very anxious, like, stressed person anyway. So that was like too much for me. Again, super grateful to be pregnant, to have experienced it. Don't ever want to experience it again, but it all makes for, you know, some funny stories now in hindsight. But thank you guys for watching. Please, please, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I am going to do Lux's birth story next with pictures because I had a birth photographer because I'm bougie. So make sure you watch that one. Make sure you watch the infertility video that I already put out. And then I'm going to do the 4th video in this series. It's going to be about breastfeeding. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Thanks, guys.